Your phone lights up. It's her. The same person who ghosted you, ignored you, made you feel like you weren't worth a simple text back. And now she's acting like she suddenly remembers you exist. Your brain splits in two. Part of you thinks, finally, she realized what she lost. The other part whispers, don't be stupid. You've been down this road before, and that's exactly where you are right now, stuck between hope and self-protection. Wanting to believe she's genuine, but terrified of looking naive again. Here's what's really happening. When someone comes back after taking you for granted, they fall into one of two categories. They either genuinely regret losing something valuable, or they're just checking if you'll still give them attention when they want it. The problem? From your position, both situations look identical at first. Same energy, same apologies, same promises. But here's what this video does. It gives you 5 clear behavioral tests that reveal which one you're dealing with. Not guesswork. Not intuition. Actual observable signs that separate real regret from ego validation. Because you shouldn't have to guess. You should know exactly what you're dealing with so you can make the right call. Now, before we dive into the test, let me be clear about something. This isn't about being bitter or cynical. It's not about punishing someone or playing mind games back. That's not what we're doing here. This is about protecting yourself with clarity. Because here's the thing. Most men get hurt twice. Once when she took them for granted. And again when they misread her coming back. And the reason this keeps happening is simple. Real regret and ego validation trigger almost identical behaviors on the surface. Same apologies. Same, I miss you energy. Same promises. But beneath the surface, the motivations are completely opposite. And if you don't know how to tell the difference, you're gambling with your emotional safety. So let's break down exactly why this is so confusing. And more importantly, how to see through it. Here's what makes this situation so dangerous. When someone comes back after taking you for granted, they're driven by one of two completely different forces. Force number 1. Real regret. This is when someone genuinely realizes they lost something valuable. They've had time to reflect. They understand what they did wrong. They recognize they took you for granted and they want to make it right. Not just for themselves, but because they finally see your worth. Force number 2. Ego validation. This is when someone just wants to confirm you're still emotionally available to them. They're not back because they miss you. They're back because seeing you move on threatens their ego. They want to know they still have access to your attention when they need it. And here's the problem. Both of these situations produce almost identical opening moves. Both will reach out with warmth. Both will apologize. Both will talk about missing you. Both will seem genuine at first. So most men do what seems natural. They give the person the benefit of the doubt. They want to believe it's real regret. They convince themselves that people can change. They accept the apology and welcome them back. And then, 2 weeks later, they're hurt all over again. Because they misread ego validation as genuine remorse. And the cycle repeats. That's why you need a test. Not hope. Not intuition. A systematic way to know what you're actually dealing with. Here's what we're going to cover. 5 specific behavioral tests that separate real regret from ego validation. Test 1. Timing and trigger analysis. When they came back reveals why they came back. Test 2. Consistency and effort patterns. How they show up over time, not just initially. Test 3. Accountability and self-awareness. What they say about what happened and who's responsible. Test 4. Intent and behavior alignment. What they actually want from coming back. And Test 5. The emotional investment test. How they respond when you're not immediately available. This is the one most men completely miss. And it's the most revealing. Stay till the end. Because after the 5 tests, I'm going to share one final truth that changes everything. Let's start with test number 1. When they come back, timing is everything. Because when someone reaches out reveals why they're reaching out. Real regret builds gradually. Someone with genuine remorse doesn't wake up one random Tuesday and suddenly miss you. They've been thinking about it for weeks. The regret has been accumulating. And when they finally reach out, it's because they've had enough time to genuinely reflect on what they lost. Ego validation, on the other hand, is always triggered by something external. And here's what you need to watch for. They reach out right after you post something that shows you moving on. Maybe it's a photo with friends. Maybe it's a new accomplishment. Something that signals you're doing well without them. That's ego validation. They can't stand seeing you thrive. Or they reach out when something in their life falls apart. A breakup with whoever they left you for. A job loss. A moment when they feel low and need an ego boost. That's not about you. That's about them needing validation when they're vulnerable. Or they reach out when they're bored or lonely. Late night texts. Weekend messages when their plans fall through. Convenient timing that has nothing to do with genuine reflection and everything to do with their immediate needs. Look at the pattern. Random 2 a.m. message. That's boredom. Text on a Sunday when everyone else is busy. That's loneliness. Reaching out the same week you got a promotion or started seeing someone new. That's threatened ego. Real regret doesn't wait for the perfect storm of your success and their struggle. It shows up consistently, building over time, independent of what's happening in either of your lives. Here's the key question. Did anything change in their life or yours right before they reached out? If yes, that's your red flag. Real regret doesn't need a trigger. It builds on its own, through genuine reflection and realization of loss. If they're contacting you because they saw your story, or heard you're doing well, or just had a bad week, that's not real regret. That's reactive ego validation. They're responding to circumstances, not genuine remorse. Pay attention to what happened in their world right before your phone lit up. Because real regret comes from internal reflection. Ego validation comes from external triggers. Timing tells you when they noticed you were gone. But consistency tells you if they actually care. So they came back at the right time for the wrong reasons. Or maybe the timing checks out. Either way, here's where most men make their first mistake. They judge someone's intent based on initial intensity instead of sustained consistency. Real regret shows up consistently over time. Not just for a week. Not just until they get your attention back. But consistently, week after week, even when it's inconvenient for them. Someone with genuine remorse doesn't disappear the moment you respond positively. They don't suddenly get busy once they confirm you're still interested. They maintain effort because they genuinely want to rebuild what was lost. Ego validation, on the other hand, follows a predictable pattern. High intensity at first. Lots of messages. Lots of I miss you energy. Lots of promises and emotional displays. But the moment they feel like they've got your attention back, the effort drops dramatically. Watch what happens over 2 to 3 weeks. Do they stay engaged even when you're not immediately responsive? Do they keep showing up even when their schedule gets busy? Do they maintain the same energy on week 3 as they had on week 1? Here's what real consistency looks like. They text you even when you haven't responded in a day. They make plans and actually follow through. They show up when it's not convenient. They maintain effort even when they're not getting immediate validation back. Ego validation fades fast. Once they feel secure that you're still emotionally available, their effort disappears. They got what they needed. Confirmation that they still have access to you. Mission accomplished. Test this. Don't be too available right away. See if their effort stays consistent or drops off when they're not getting instant gratification. Real regret will wait patiently and keep showing up. Ego validation will move on or get frustrated when validation isn't immediate. Consistency shows commitment, but accountability reveals awareness. Now let's talk about what they actually say. Because how someone talks about what happened reveals everything about their level of self-awareness and genuine regret. Real regret comes with specific accountability. Someone who genuinely regrets losing you will name exactly what they did wrong without being prompted. They'll say things like, "I took you for granted when you were always there for me." Or, "I didn't appreciate how much effort you put in." Or, "I was selfish with your time and attention." They're specific, they're clear, and they take full responsibility without deflecting. Ego validation sounds completely different. You'll hear vague apologies. "I'm sorry for everything." Or, "We both made mistakes." Or, "I wasn't in a good place." These are non-apologies. They avoid naming specific behaviors. They diffuse responsibility. They make it mutual when it wasn't. Watch for defensiveness. If you bring up something they did, do they immediately justify it? Do they explain why they had no choice? Do they shift blame to circumstances or to you? That's ego protection, not genuine accountability. Real regret owns the damage without excuses. They don't say, "I was stressed so I pulled away." They say, "I pulled away when you needed me, and that was wrong." See the difference? One justifies, the other takes ownership. Here's another key indicator. Do they understand how their behavior impacted you? Or are they focused on how they feel now? Real regret shows empathy for what you went through. Ego validation centers on their current discomfort. Listen to their language. "I feel terrible about what happened" is about them. "I know I hurt you when I did X. And I understand why you couldn't trust me after that" is about understanding your experience. That's the difference. If they can't name what they did wrong without you spelling it out, that's not self-awareness. That's someone checking if they can get back in without actually doing the work of reflection. What they say matters, but what they want from you reveals everything. Here's where it gets real. Because what someone says they want and what they actually do are often two completely different things. And this test reveals their true intent. Real regret focuses on making amends and rebuilding trust properly. They understand they broke something. They know they can't just pick up where they left off. They're willing to move at your pace, respect your boundaries, and earn their way back in. Watch what they're actually trying to do when they come back. Are they trying to make things right? Or are they trying to resume where things ended like nothing happened? Ego validation wants immediate access. They want to skip the uncomfortable parts. They want you to forgive and forget fast so they can feel validated without doing the actual work of reconciliation. They're impatient. They get frustrated when you need space or time. They push for immediate closeness. Here's what this looks like in practice. Real regret says, "I understand if you need time. I'll be here when you're ready." Ego validation says, "So, are we good now?" Or, "I said I'm sorry. What more do you want?" Real regret respects your healing process. Ego validation makes your healing process about them. They guilt trip you for not moving faster. They act hurt when you maintain boundaries. They make you feel like you're punishing them by protecting yourself. Look at their actions. Do they demonstrate changed behavior? Or do they just promise change? Real regret shows you through consistent action over time. Ego validation tells you they've changed and expects you to believe it immediately. Here's the ultimate behavioral test. Do they show up for you without expecting something in return? Real regret contributes to your life without keeping score. Ego validation only engages when they need something emotional from you. If they're pushing for quick forgiveness, getting frustrated with boundaries, or expecting instant trust, that's ego validation. Real regret understands that rebuilding takes time and they've got to earn it. Their behavior shows intent, but here's the test most men completely miss. This is the most revealing test of all. And it's the one most men never think to use. Here's what you do. Watch how they respond when you're not immediately available. Real regret is patient. They understand you have a life. They understand you might need space. They understand you can't always respond right away. And they're okay with that because they're invested in the long-term rebuilding process, not just immediate validation. Ego validation gets frustrated fast. If you don't respond within hours, they follow up. If you say you need time, they guilt trip you. If you maintain boundaries, they get defensive or disappear entirely. Because ego validation needs constant feeding. The moment you stop providing it, their interest fades. Test this deliberately. Take a day to respond. Say you need some time to think. Maintain a boundary about seeing them too soon. Real regret will respect all of that. They'll say, take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. And then they actually mean it. Ego validation will react poorly. They'll make it about them. So you don't forgive me. Or they'll pressure you. How long do you need? Or they'll disappear. Because they're not in this for the long term. They're in it for the quick validation fix. Here's the deeper layer. Watch how they handle your emotions. If you express hurt about what happened, do they listen and validate? Or do they immediately defend themselves and minimize your pain? Real regret holds space for your pain without making it about them. Ego validation can't tolerate your pain because it makes them feel bad, so they minimize it, defend against it, or rush you past it. Now let's score this. If you've identified 4 or more of these ego validation signs, you're not dealing with real regret. You're dealing with someone who wants access to your emotional availability without earning it back. Timing triggered by external factors. Check. Inconsistent effort that fades after initial intensity. Check. Vague accountability without specific ownership. Check. Pushing for quick forgiveness and immediate closeness. Check. Getting frustrated when you maintain boundaries or need space. Check. 4 or more. Walk away. That's not someone who regrets losing you. That's someone checking if you're still hooked. But if most signs point to real regret, you have something different. Someone who genuinely understands what they lost and is willing to do the work to rebuild trust properly. Now you have the framework, but there's one truth you need to hear before you make your decision. Now let me tell you something that might be hard to hear. But you need to hear it. If you're sitting here analyzing signs, running through checklists, questioning whether it's real or not, that's your answer right there. When someone genuinely regrets losing you, you don't have to wonder. You feel it. You know it. It's undeniable. Real regret doesn't make you question. It's obvious through consistent behavior, clear accountability, and genuine effort over time. You're not analyzing. You're watching someone clearly demonstrate through actions that they understand what they lost, and they're willing to earn it back. But if you're here, watching this video, running through tests in your mind, that tells you something. Deep down, you already know. Your gut is telling you this doesn't feel right, and you came here looking for permission to trust that feeling. I know that sounds harsh, but here's what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to be cynical. I'm not telling you people can't change. I'm not telling you to never give second chances. What I'm telling you is this. Your intuition already knows the difference between someone who's genuinely sorry and someone who just wants access back. The fact that you need a test framework means something feels off. And that's information. Would you question gravity? Would you analyze whether the sun will rise tomorrow? No, because some things are undeniable. Real regret falls into that category. When it's genuine, you know. When you're questioning, that's your answer. Trust your gut over their words. Trust your peace over their promises. Because you deserve someone who never made you question their intentions in the first place. So I want to hear from you. Has someone come back into your life recently? What did you notice when you ran them through these tests? Were the signs pointing to real regret or ego validation? Drop a comment and let me know. I read every single comment, and I'm here to help you think through these situations. Because I know how confusing it is when someone comes back. You want to believe the best, but you also don't want to get hurt again. And look, this video isn't just about one situation. It's about building the awareness to protect your peace in every relationship moving forward. Knowing the difference between someone who values you and someone who just values your attention. That's the skill that changes everything. If this helped you see your situation more clearly, subscribe. Because this channel is about giving you the psychological frameworks to make better decisions in relationships. No games. No manipulation. Just clarity and self-respect. Remember this. Your peace is more valuable than anyone's validation. Your intuition is wiser than their words. And you deserve someone who never took you for granted in the first place. Don't settle for ego validation when real love doesn't make you question it.